Most people waste their lives proving themselves. They chase attention, show off their strength, and beg for recognition. But there is one man who never does any of this, Ayanokoji. He stays silent, he hides in plain sight, and yet he becomes the most feared without even trying. But how can someone so quiet control everything around him? Most people believe strength is about being noticed. They think the loudest voice in the room is the one that carries power. They think respect comes from showing off, from dominating conversations, from forcing others to acknowledge them. This is the mindset we are all trained to follow. Prove yourself, advertise yourself, and never let people forget you exist. That's why so many spend their lives chasing attention. They dress to be seen, they talk to be heard, and they post every achievement online just to remind the world that they matter. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The more you depend on being seen, the weaker you actually become. Because the moment no one is watching, your identity collapses. If your strength is built on attention, then without attention, you have no strength at all. Now look at Ayanokoji. He doesn't play this game. He doesn't care about proving anything. In fact, he does the exact opposite. He hides his true power, blending into the background like a shadow. On the surface, he looks average, invisible, harmless. People overlook him, underestimate him, and dismiss him as ordinary. And yet, somehow, he is the one controlling every outcome. Why? Because silence is not weakness, it is strategy. While everyone else wastes energy showing off, Ayanokoji saves his. While others are desperate to be noticed, he is quietly observing, learning, and waiting. His invisibility is not a flaw, it's his greatest weapon. Because the moment people underestimate you, they give you the advantage. They reveal themselves without fear, they expose their flaws without hesitation, and by the time they realize you were never ordinary, it's already too late. This is the essence of hidden power. The world is full of people trying to be lions, roaring loudly to scare others. But the lion's roar also tells the world exactly where it is. Ayanokoji is not a lion, he is the shadow watching silently. He is the one who strikes without warning, and that is why he always wins. So while the masses chase recognition, he chases control. While others seek to prove themselves, he simply learns how to master himself. And in mastering himself, he gains mastery over everyone else. To understand this, you must first step into the psychology of absolute control. Emotions. They are the invisible strings that control almost every human being. Anger makes you reckless, fear makes you hesitate, excitement makes you careless, and pride blinds you to the truth. Most people believe they are making decisions through logic, but the reality is simple. Almost every choice is dictated by emotion. That is why most people are easy to predict, easy to manipulate, and easy to control. Now look at Ayanokoji. He is different. He never lets emotions dictate his actions. He never speaks out of anger. He never freezes in fear. He never makes impulsive moves out of excitement. And he never lets pride push him into mistakes. His face stays calm. His tone stays steady. His body language remains unreadable. It doesn't matter if he is surrounded by enemies or backed into a corner. He never gives anyone the satisfaction of seeing him lose control. This is what makes him so terrifying. Because in a world where everyone reacts emotionally, the one who does not becomes untouchable. Think about how easily people reveal themselves through emotion. Anger tells the world what bothers you. Fear shows the world what controls you. Excitement tells the world what you desire. Every outburst, every reaction, is like a roadmap leading directly to your weakness. This is why manipulators and strategists always win, because they know how to push emotional buttons. The louder you react, the easier you are to control. Ayanokoji refuses to give anyone that advantage. He lives by silence, not because he has no emotions, but because he has mastered them. He understands that the moment he reacts, he becomes predictable. And predictability is death for anyone who wants real power. Now imagine applying this in real life. Picture a heated argument. Most people would raise their voice, defend themselves, or attack back instantly. But if you were to stay completely calm, you would instantly dominate the situation. Why? Because your opponent is exposing themselves, while you are revealing nothing. They become transparent, while you remain a mystery. And mystery is power. Or imagine being in a negotiation. The other person tries to pressure you with urgency, fear, or temptation. Most people would fold under that weight because their emotions betray them. But if you remain detached, if you show no sign of weakness, they are forced to question themselves. Suddenly, they don't know what you're thinking, they don't know what you're planning, and that uncertainty eats away at them until they break. This is Ayanokoji's greatest strength. His silence is not just the absence of words, it is the absence of emotional leakage. And that silence creates pressure. It makes people uneasy. It forces them to fill the silence with their own fears, their own doubts, their own insecurities. While they crumble under the weight of their emotions, Ayanokoji stays in control, watching, waiting, ready to act when the moment is right. But let's take this even deeper. Controlling your emotions doesn't just make you harder to read, it gives you total command over yourself. Most people are slaves to impulse. They eat when they crave, they speak when they're angry, they quit when they're afraid. Their entire life is ruled by reactions. But when you control your emotions, you control your impulses. And when you control your impulses, you control your life. That is why self-mastery is always the foundation of power. You cannot control others if you cannot control yourself. Ayanokoji knows this truth. He doesn't waste energy fighting for recognition, because recognition is an emotional addiction. He doesn't waste energy arguing, because arguments are emotional traps. He doesn't waste energy reacting, because reactions give the enemy control. Instead, he keeps all of his energy, all of his focus, and all of his control intact until the moment he chooses to use it. And when he finally acts, it feels unstoppable. Because unlike others, he hasn't been weakened by emotion. He hasn't been distracted, he hasn't been drained. He is precise, calculated, and unshakable. This is the first step in the psychology of absolute control, emotional mastery. It's not about suppressing emotions, it's about owning them. It's about never letting anger rush you, never letting fear stop you, never letting excitement blind you, and never letting pride control you. Because the truth is simple, the one who controls his emotions automatically controls those who don't. Most people are addicted to speed. They want results today, recognition tomorrow, and victory instantly. They move fast, talk fast, decide fast because they fear being left behind. But in their rush, they reveal their hands too early. They make mistakes. They waste energy. And worst of all, they expose their weakness before the real battle has even begun. Ayanokoji never makes this mistake. He understands a truth that most people ignore: timing matters more than speed. He waits, he observes, and he only moves when it matters. Watch closely in every situation he is in. He never acts first. He allows others to fight, to compete, to burn themselves out. He studies their behavior, their flaws, their hidden desires. He notices every detail that impatience makes them overlook. And then when the perfect moment arrives, he strikes once, with absolute precision. One move, perfectly timed, that changes everything. This is strategic patience. And it is the difference between wasting energy and winning effortlessly. Think about chess. Beginners rush their moves. They chase pieces, attack recklessly, and celebrate small victories. Masters do the opposite. They sacrifice pieces if necessary. They wait for their opponent to expose themselves. They think 10 steps ahead and remain calm while the other side exhausts itself. Then, when the opportunity appears, the master moves decisively and the game is over before the opponent even realizes what happened. That is how Ayanokoji plays life. He doesn't rush to prove himself. He doesn't jump at the first opportunity. He doesn't reveal his full power until it is impossible to stop. His patience allows him to win without effort, because his enemies defeat themselves long before he lifts a finger. Now let's translate this into real life. How many people ruin opportunities because they act too soon? They confess their feelings before the timing is right. They invest in something without waiting for the right moment. They speak in meetings just to be heard, instead of holding silence until their words carry maximum weight. In every case, impatience costs them power. But if you were to wait, to observe, to let others reveal themselves first, your position changes. Suddenly, you are not the one chasing, you are the one controlling. People expose their intentions without realizing it. They reveal their desperation, their flaws, their weaknesses. And all you have to do is remain calm, watch, and choose the perfect moment to act. This is why patience is not passivity. It is not weakness. It is silent dominance. Every second you wait, you are gathering information. Every pause makes the other side more nervous. Every silence forces them to reveal more. And when you finally decide to move, your action carries 10 times the weight, because it is perfectly timed. Ayanokoji understands this perfectly. He has no need to rush, because rushing is what makes people stumble. He has no need to prove himself immediately, because real power is not about being first, it is about being final. The one who moves first may look strong, but the one who moves last decides the outcome. Even in psychological warfare, patience is the ultimate weapon. Imagine someone trying to provoke you, trying to drag you into an emotional reaction. If you respond instantly, they control you. But if you wait calm, unmoved, unreadable, they collapse under their own frustration. Their impatience exposes them. Their weakness reveals itself. And you, without doing anything, already win. Strategic patience also applies to ambition. Look at society. People rush for money, rush for recognition, rush for validation. They burn out chasing things too fast, and in their desperation, they settle for less than they could have had. But those who are patient, those who wait, those who build slowly and act only when the timing is perfect, they don't just succeed, they dominate. This is why you must learn to move like Ayanokoji. Hold back, watch, steady. Let others reveal themselves. Save your energy until the moment comes when one action will outweigh 100 impulsive moves. Because when you act at the perfect time, you don't just win, you make it look effortless. Impatience is weakness. Patience is silent dominance. Power in its purest form is never loud. It doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to demand. It doesn't even need to be recognized. Real power works quietly, invisibly, underneath the surface, guiding people without them ever realizing it. This is why Ayanokoji is so dangerous. He never forces anyone to obey. He never raises his voice, never makes a dramatic display of authority, never tries to dominate with brute strength. Instead, he studies people. He learns their fears, their weaknesses, their secret desires. And then, without ever being seen as the cause, he nudges them in exactly the direction he wants. To outsiders, it looks like they acted of their own free will, but in reality, they are walking down a path Ayanokoji carefully designed for them. That is manipulation without noise, shaping outcomes without ever appearing responsible. Think about how most people attempt influence. They push, they argue, they try to persuade with force. But force always creates resistance. When someone feels pressured, they instinctively push back. Even if they give in, they remember the pressure. They remember the control. And eventually, they rebel against it. But when influence is subtle, when it feels like their choice, they never resist. They even defend the decision, believing it was theirs all along. That is the genius of quiet manipulation. It leaves no fingerprints, no trace, no suspicion. Ayanokoji embodies this. He doesn't try to change people's nature, he simply uses it. If someone is greedy, he lets their greed destroy them. If someone craves validation, he feeds it just enough to make them predictable. If someone seeks control, he allows them to believe they have it while secretly pulling the strings behind the scenes. His enemies trap themselves, and all he has to do is step aside and let it happen. In real life, this principle is just as powerful. Most people try to control others by being loud, barking orders, giving threats, demanding attention. But the more obvious your manipulation, the weaker it becomes. People notice, they resist, they start to see through you. The quiet manipulator never faces this problem. Instead of forcing, he guides. Instead of demanding, he suggests. Instead of arguing, he asks the right question that makes people convince themselves. The result. He wins not by overpowering, but by letting others walk willingly into the outcome he wanted all along. Consider this in everyday life. A loud manipulator might say, "Do this because I said so." But a quiet manipulator might ask, "What do you think would happen if you did this instead?" The first creates tension, the second creates cooperation. One makes people feel controlled, the other makes them feel smart, independent, respected while still doing exactly what you wanted. This is why the silent manipulator is unstoppable. No one sees him coming, no one realizes he's there. People underestimate him, ignore him, even dismiss him as irrelevant. And because no one suspects him, he can influence freely, without defense, without suspicion. It's the same in strategy and leadership, in relationships. The moment people see your intentions, they put up walls. But if you hide those intentions, if you move invisibly, those walls never rise. And when there are no walls, you can go anywhere, influence anyone, and control any outcome. Ayanokoji proves this repeatedly. He never plays the hero, never takes credit, never draws the spotlight. He simply creates conditions where others destroy themselves or carry out his plan unknowingly. And when the dust settles, people look back and wonder, how did everything end exactly in his favor? The answer is simple. He didn't fight for control, he built it quietly, step by step, while everyone else was too distracted to notice. Now, think about how this applies to you. In every group, there are people desperate to be leaders. They raise their voices, they demand to be recognized, they push their way to the front. And then there's the quiet one in the back, the one who listens, the one who observes, the one who lets the others fight for dominance. That quiet one is often the real controller. Because while the loud ones are busy competing, the silent one is planting ideas, shaping perspectives, nudging outcomes. That's why influence without noise is the highest form of control. Because when people believe they are making their own choices, they follow you willingly. They never resist, they never rebel, and they never even realize they are being guided. Ayanokoji doesn't manipulate with chains, he manipulates with invisible strings. And the person controlled never even sees the strings until it's too late. Remember this, the loud manipulator is obvious, the silent manipulator is unstoppable. The greatest power is not the ability to control others. It is the ability to control yourself. Ayanokoji proves this again and again. His dominance doesn't come from armies, allies, or attention. His real weapon is self-mastery. While everyone else is a slave to emotion, distraction, and ego, he remains untouchable because nothing inside him can be moved without his permission. Most people think power is external. They think it comes from status, wealth, connections, or fear. But external power is fragile. Take away the title, and the man becomes ordinary. Strip away the money, and the confidence vanishes. Remove the applause, and the so-called leader crumbles. But self-mastery cannot be stripped away. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It doesn't depend on recognition. It doesn't depend on anyone else. It is power that lives within, unshakable, permanent, and untouchable. This is Ayanokoji's secret. He doesn't need validation. He doesn't need attention. He doesn't even need victory to prove himself. He already owns himself completely. And because of that, he cannot be manipulated, he cannot be broken, and he cannot be defeated from the inside. Think about it. How do most people lose? It's never purely from external attack. They lose because fear takes over. They lose because anger clouds their judgment. They lose because desire makes them reckless. The enemy doesn't need to destroy them, their lack of self-control destroys them first. But Ayanokoji doesn't allow this weakness. He owns his fear. He owns his anger. He owns his desire. Every emotion serves him, not the other way around. That is why he moves like a ghost, calm in every storm, precise in every strike. He never reacts blindly, he chooses every response. And here's the truth, in real life, once you control yourself, you control the game. Because while everyone else is chained to their impulses, you move freely. While they panic, you remain calm. While they chase attention, you stay focused. While they burn energy proving themselves, you conserve energy, waiting for the perfect moment. Self-mastery makes you unpredictable. It makes you untouchable. It makes you powerful without ever having to show power. Look at the modern world. Most people are slaves, even if they don't realize it. They're slaves to social media likes, slaves to instant gratification, slaves to anger, slaves to insecurity. They think they're free, but their emotions and addictions control every move they make. That is why they are easy to manipulate. That is why they fail. But the one who breaks those chains, the one who doesn't need validation, doesn't need distraction, doesn't need approval, cannot be controlled. You can tempt him, but he won't bite. You can threaten him, but he won't break. You can ignore him, but he won't care. He belongs fully to himself. And that is ultimate power. This is why Ayanokoji is terrifying. Not because he controls others, but because no one can control him. And this is where his silence becomes his greatest weapon. He doesn't waste words, because he doesn't need to. He doesn't waste energy, because he values it. He doesn't get pulled into games of ego or status, because they mean nothing to him. His self-mastery allows him to move outside the rules everyone else is trapped inside. In real life, this is the highest form of dominance. If you can control yourself, you automatically rise above everyone who can't. You don't even have to fight for respect, people feel it. They notice the calm, the focus, the discipline. They sense the difference, even if they can't explain it. And that difference bends the world around you. Think of the greatest leaders, thinkers, and warriors in history. Their strength came not just from strategy or skill, but from their ability to govern themselves when others couldn't. The one who stays calm in chaos becomes the anchor everyone else clings to. The one who doesn't lose himself in anger becomes the sharpest blade on the battlefield. The one who doesn't crave validation becomes immune to manipulation. That is Ayanokoji's true lesson. Control yourself, and the rest will follow. This doesn't mean cutting off emotion, it means mastering it. Anger, fear, desire, these are tools when you control them, but chains when they control you. Ayanokoji feels, but he decides how and when to use those feelings. He doesn't deny his humanity, he weaponizes it. And that is why he wins without even looking like he's playing. Self-mastery is the foundation of absolute control. You can't control outcomes if you can't control yourself. You can't lead others if you can't even lead your own mind. You can't win long-term if every impulse and temptation can break your focus. This is the level most people never reach. They spend their whole lives chasing control of the outside world, money, status, relationships, without realizing the real battlefield is inside themselves. And because they ignore that battlefield, they lose it. They are conquered before they even begin. Ayanokoji never makes that mistake. He conquered himself first. That's why the world bends around him. So remember this, control yourself, and you controlled the game. Real strength is never about controlling others, it is about mastering yourself. This is the trait that makes Ayanokoji different from everyone around him. He doesn't waste his time proving his superiority, because he doesn't need to. He doesn't fight for attention, recognition, or validation, because those battles are meaningless. He operates from a position that very few ever reach, complete self-mastery. Think about it, what truly controls most people. It's not society, it's not their enemies. It's not even external pressure, the real chains are internal. Anger, fear, jealousy, ego, greed, these invisible forces pull the strings of people's actions more than any outside influence. A man filled with anger makes reckless decisions. A man ruled by fear hesitates until opportunities vanish. A man enslaved by desire becomes predictable, easy to manipulate, easy to control. If you know what someone craves, you can own them. And most people are walking open books, completely driven by their impulses. But Ayanokoji, he breaks this cycle. He does not chase desires. He does not react blindly to provocation. He does not allow fear to hold him back, nor ego to push him forward. He is silent, composed, almost emotionless on the surface, but this isn't weakness. It's power, because the man who controls himself cannot be controlled by anyone else. This is why he is feared. Not because he yells, not because he flexes, not because he shows power, but because he is uncheckable. You cannot pull his strings, because he has already cut them. Now think about this in your own life. How many times have you made a decision you later regretted, not because it was wrong logically, but because you acted emotionally? Maybe you said something in anger that destroyed a relationship. Maybe you rushed into a choice because fear told you to move. Maybe you let desire for approval push you into the wrong crowd. Every time, it wasn't the world defeating you. It was you defeating yourself. That is the trap Ayanokoji refuses to fall into. He is not obsessed with controlling others because he knows the highest power lies in controlling yourself first. Once you master your emotions, your impulses, your reactions, everything else bends naturally. Look at leaders in history. The greatest were not the loudest, or the strongest, or even the most ruthless. They were the calmest in chaos. When others panicked, they stayed collected. When others reacted, they observed. When others hesitated, they chose the perfect moment to act. Their strength wasn't just intelligence, it was self-mastery. This is what separates the weak from the untouchable. Weak men are slaves to their impulses. Strong men own themselves. But here's the paradox. People confuse self-mastery with suppression. They think controlling yourself means becoming cold, robotic, lifeless. That's not the truth. Real mastery doesn't mean you kill your emotions, it means you rule them. Anger is a weapon, but only when you decide when to use it. Desire is fuel, but only when you control its direction. Fear can sharpen awareness, but only if you prevent it from freezing you. Ayanokoji embodies this perfectly. He is not empty, he is disciplined. He doesn't remove his emotions, he controls when, where, and how they appear. This is why he is so dangerous. He can sit in silence while the entire room is filled with chaos, because chaos outside does not shake the calm inside. Now bring this to your world. Imagine two men walking into a negotiation. One man is desperate, chasing validation, eager to prove himself. His emotions betray him, his tone, his body language, his energy. He wants the deal so badly, the other side already has the upper hand. The second man, he walks in calm, composed, unreadable. He doesn't chase, he doesn't reveal, he doesn't fold under pressure. Who do you think walks away with power? Always the one who owns himself. The same applies in relationships, in ambition, in every field of life. The moment you chase validation, the moment you lose control over your impulses, you lose power. But when you can stay calm while others panic, stay patient while others rush, stay disciplined while others crumble, you become uncheckable. This is why people like Ayanokoji appear untouchable. They don't bend to society's games, because they don't play them. They don't fight for approval, because they don't need it. They are already complete within themselves, and that makes them impossible to dominate. But here's the hardest truth. Self-mastery requires war. Not with others but with yourself. Every day you fight against laziness, distraction, ego, desire, fear. Every time you delay gratification, every time you stay disciplined, every time you choose silence instead of emotional outbursts, you sharpen your control. And over time, this becomes uncheckable strength. Most people never reach this level because they are too comfortable being slaves. They would rather obey their impulses than rule them. They think freedom means doing whatever I feel like, but the truth is the opposite. Freedom is doing what you choose, regardless of how you feel. That is Ayanokoji's secret. He is not free because no one controls him. He is free because he controls himself. And once you own yourself completely, the world bends naturally. Because no one can defeat a man who has already defeated himself. Control yourself, and you control the game. Most people spend their entire lives trapped in the same game, chasing recognition, respect, and validation. They fight to prove they are smarter, louder, richer, stronger, or more dominant than the person next to them. And yet, in this endless race for attention, they only expose their weaknesses. The loud man reveals his insecurity. The impatient man reveals his desperation. The manipulator who talks too much exposes his lies. But Ayanokoji, he wins because he never enters the race to begin with. This is the secret that separates him from everyone else. He doesn't chase approval. He doesn't care if people underestimate him. He doesn't seek to impress or dominate through noise. He is invisible until he decides not to be, and that invisibility is his greatest weapon. Look back at the traits we've uncovered. He controls his emotions so completely that no one can predict or control him. He practices patience so perfectly that he always strikes at the exact moment that matters most. He manipulates not through noise and force, but through silence and precision, guiding others without ever being detected. And above all, he has mastered himself, which means he is untouchable. Do you see the pattern? Every one of these traits feeds into the same core principle. True power doesn't come from playing the game better, it comes from refusing to play at all. Think about the world you live in right now. Social media, workplaces, schools, everywhere you look, people are screaming for attention. Everyone wants to be noticed, respected, praised. They post, they brag, they fight for approval. But in chasing all this recognition, they lose something far greater, their control. Because the moment you care about being seen, you hand your power over to those who can see or ignore you. The moment you crave validation, you hand your power to those who can grant or withhold it. And the moment you play the same game as everyone else, you are just another player, fighting for scraps in a rigged arena. Ayanokoji refuses this. He doesn't need recognition to validate his existence. He doesn't need approval to prove his worth. His value is internal, his control is internal, his power is internal. That is why he terrifies everyone who crosses him, because they cannot figure him out. They cannot predict him. They cannot bend him with the usual tricks of ego, praise, or intimidation. This is where the emotional peak begins to rise. Imagine standing across from someone who doesn't flinch under threat, doesn't react to provocation, doesn't fall for manipulation, and doesn't care whether you acknowledge him or not. What can you possibly do to such a person? You can't scare him. You can't control him. You can't even tempt him. And that's when you realize he already has control over you. Because while you're busy reacting, proving, chasing, showing off, he is watching, calculating, waiting. And when he moves, it's already too late. This is why people like Ayanokoji are feared. Not because they shout, not because they dominate publicly, not because they demand respect. They terrify the world precisely because they do not need the world. There is nothing more intimidating than a person who cannot be influenced. Because every tool society uses, praise, shame, rejection, pressure, bounces off him like it means nothing. This is the peak of psychology, realizing that control is not about dominating others, but about being immune to domination yourself. Once you achieve that, you automatically stand above everyone else. And here's where it gets deeper. People sense this subconsciously. Even if they cannot explain it, they feel it. That's why Ayanokoji's presence alone is unsettling. People don't know why he scares them, but they feel the imbalance. They feel powerless in his silence, in his patience, in his refusal to need them. It's the same in life. You've met people like this. The quiet man in the room who doesn't seek attention but commands it. The one who doesn't argue, but somehow ends the argument by saying nothing. The one who doesn't brag, but everyone respects him anyway. He terrifies not because he tries to, but because he doesn't need to. And that is where true dominance lies. Ayanokoji embodies this principle to perfection. He wins not by being the loudest, not by being the flashiest, not by begging for recognition. He wins because he refuses to play the game everyone else is addicted to. While they waste their energy chasing shadows, he stands still, and in that stillness, he holds absolute control. And that is why people like him terrify the world. You've seen it clearly now. The world trains you to waste your energy proving yourself. To shout louder, to show off more, to chase validation, status, and approval like a desperate beggar. And yet, every step you take in that direction only weakens you because it makes you dependent on the recognition of others. Ayanokoji is the complete rejection of that weakness. He doesn't need to prove himself, because his proof is in his silence. He doesn't need to display his strength, because his strength is internal. He doesn't need to play the game, because he already mastered the rules before anyone even realized he was playing. The lesson here is simple but life-altering. Stop wasting energy proving yourself. Stop begging for validation. Instead, learn what truly matters. Master your silence. Master your emotions. Master your timing. Because when you control these three, no one can predict you, no one can break you, and no one can use you. That is the essence of power. Not noise, not attention, not validation, but complete control of self. And here's the paradox. Once you own yourself fully, you will notice something strange happening. The same people who once ignored you, mocked you, or underestimated you suddenly respect you. They fear you. They look to you for direction, even if you never asked for it. Because in a world of people chasing shadows, the one man who stands still appears godlike. Remember this. The one who owns himself eventually owns everyone else. And when you finally understand this, you'll realize power was never about being seen. It was always about being in control. If this message resonated with you, don't just keep it to yourself, help it spread. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more deep insights. Because the journey to mastering yourself has only just begun.